You're listening to Inside Content, the TV industry podcast. This show is brought to you by 3Vision, a global TV industry consultancy specialising in content acquisition, strategy, research, and business development. Each episode, we give you VIP access to the views and experiences of senior TV executives and discuss the latest TV industry trends and insights.
In this special highlight episode of Inside Content, we're looking at where FAST goes next. FAST is now an established part of the streaming market. Broadcasters, studios, distributors, and platform businesses are all using it in different ways, whether as a revenue stream, a discovery layer, a way to monetize library content, or part of a wider direct-to-consumer strategy. But as the market matures, the conversation is changing. It is less about whether FAST has a role, and more about how companies are making it work. What content performs, how channels are curated, how advertising is monetized, and where the model is strongest by market. Across recent episodes, we have spoken to leaders from across the FAST ecosystem. In this episode, we bring those conversations together to look at how the market is evolving beyond the initial growth phase.
Introducing Video Markets Tracker from 3Vision, your go-to source for global TV data. We offer regularly updated regional and global reports covering pay TV, SVOD, AVOD, and FAST across Africa, MENA, the Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific. Make smarter decisions with insights you can trust. Learn more at 3vision.tv. Now, on to the episode.
FAST is now a meaningful part of the revenue mix for many content owners and platform businesses, but as the market has matured, the economics have become clearer. Here's how Blue Ant, Fremantle, and Fuse are thinking about FAST as part of their wider businesses.
Yes, that was a huge advantage for us. There were so many legacy media companies in the US who were like, ooh, what is this FAST thing? We want to keep our content behind our paywalls. We don't want to give it out. And we went running towards it and said, yes, this is a real advantage for us. We can actually not be tied into anything and constricted. We can actually really lean into it in a big way. And it was a major payoff for us.
And so 2019, so almost 7 years ago now, seems like it shouldn't be that long, but it is. In terms of how you view FAST now, is that still a big growth area for you? Is that just kind of nice little bit of extra pocket money on top of what else you have, or is it becoming more part of the kind of firm and structure of Blue Ant as a whole, do you think?
Oh, I think it's definitely going to be a revenue pillar for us moving forward, without a doubt. Is it evolving? Yes, for sure. And I think that's the real trick, is staying ahead of that evolution. I am a firm believer that advertisers will go where the audience is. And we've seen globally across our portfolio a 32% increase in time spent on our portfolio. And that means viewers are coming and they're continuing to grow. And so my sense is advertisers will follow, and we will continue to reap the benefits of FAST. Now, that doesn't mean we can't, sit back and relax. We have to be thinking about how we take advantage of those eyeballs and how we interact with the advertising market. I don't think going it on programmatic alone is going to do it. And I think how we're strategic about entering a direct sales space, how we think about interacting with advertisers in different ways with our brands. I think all of that is going to be super important as this fast and connected TV ecosystem develops.
So, as I think you said at the beginning, a lot of your FAST activity is in the US market. And I talking to other people in the industry, I get the same, the same feedback. And, and it seems like, the FAST opportunity in the US is pretty substantial. But on the other hand, in international, I think there was quite a lot of excitement over the last sort of few years where, people launched a lot of channels internationally. Now I'm sensing quite a lot of disappointment from people where they've found that, the international opportunity hasn't really appeared, and they're actually being, closing channels down and kind of looking at how they, there's still an opportunity there, but it's not really as kind of, big as and exciting as they maybe hoped. What's your take on that?
Fast was a huge hyper topic, right, for a while, and now the reality hits in. Couple of things. Number one, it's I would say it's about 90% is US.
Yeah.
Right. So it's very much US centric business, which when you think it through is not too much of a surprise, because especially in Europe, we have free TV. We know free TV.
Yeah, plenty of it.
So it's there's plenty of free TV. And to consume your free TV, you only need a cable or whatever subscription. And in some territories, it's terrestrial antenna. You don't even need a cable subscription. And the price of the cable subscription in Europe, in most places, is very cheap, right? It's very, very cheap. So free TV, to consume free TV is almost free. Let's say it like that. While in the US, we know we come from a world of cable TV where for an average household to spend $80 up to $200 a month wasn't too much of a surprise, right? So in that market where people were used to spend that kind of money on cable, if you offer a truly free choice, that's a real product innovation. That is a difference. And you do have a lot of people coming to that new market. And that is exactly what happened, right? So the traffic that you generate on these fast platforms is absolutely tremendous in terms of volume. And in the first years in the fast, and then the first year, we had our first channel on fast maybe 7 years ago, which was a version of Buzzer, which is our game show channel, which we have as a digital cable net in America on the local Fox channels. We run also cable channel. So a version of that we put into fast just as a trial at the beginning. First year we were like, a little bit, second year, well, we make a little bit of money. And third year, well, we're making money here.
Right.
So, oops, everybody attention. And we built a dedicated team, right? We built channels. And now we are running more than 25 owned and operated channels in the US across more than a dozen platforms. We built a dedicated team. It's a very different process to what you do compared to your regular distribution business. It's also quite different compared to social media. It's very different to social media. And it becomes a scheduling play, a marketing play, a planning play. You have to plan for the whole year in advance. It becomes a volume play. So in terms of your infrastructure, your MAM has to be completely, your media asset management system has to be completely built out in a very different way. You need marketing assets to the gazoo. So your marketing needs to be structured very differently. And you have to be very cost focused, because you move so much publishing and so much marketing assets that if your material or marketing costs, if you don't focus on that, it might not be even very profitable, right? So you need to put an operation in place. Then what happened about 3-4 years ago was that there was too much fast and fast. Too many fast channels came into fast. And there was an oversupply of advertising inventory, and that drove the CPMs down.
Yeah.
Right. And they'll still be driven down even this year. Right. I would say over the last 12, the good thing is the platforms reacted in the US. I would say they threw out about 20% of all channels were sunset. A big chunk of channels were taken out of the market, which was really important. Then some of the platforms reduce the advertising inventory, make it also better viewing experience. You cannot have 15 minutes of advertising it's crazy, within an hour, right? So they reduced that. And I think the market finds a new base now. For us, it's a great business. It's a very profitable business. We love it. And we built out an infrastructure now to the extent that we are also servicing third-party channels. So other people come to us and say, can you run a channel for us? Because you built out the operation. We're fully aware that it takes people, it takes know-how. You can help us with that. And so we're doing that as well now.
So Fast has been an early adopter, or Fuse has been an early adopter in Fast. What has been the most surprising thing that you've learned from bringing a pay TV network into an ad-supported space?
Well, so we have our two pay TV networks. What we had to do, because pay TV is a very different business than what Fast, was to create new networks. So all of the networks that we own and operate today are different from the pay TV networks that we have on that side of the business. I would say the most interesting thing, having launched our first channel in 2018 to where we are now, is just how much it's become like pay TV. And we took that point of view when we started in pay TV. It was like, okay, what can we take from our learnings in pay TV and having all of that competency and muscle in that business and apply it to Fast, and it has been advantageous for us. And that's from, the programming and scheduling teams to marketing and our post operations teams. We have a business that we've been doing for a very long time, and successfully so, and have applied those same skill sets to Fast, and that has been we've done it with a lot of success. I'd say the other thing, not necessarily surprising, but I think has become more of an eye opener for a lot of folks, is that Fast is not pay TV, and that it's a one-legged stool. It's one revenue stream. Pay TV, why it's been such a good business for as long as it has, is it's a dual revenue stream business. You have your ads and you have the carriage fees. You have the affiliate piece. But Fast, it's just the one ad or just the one revenue stream with advertising. So you're kind of more exposed to market fluctuations. If the ad market is up, you're doing great. If the ad market is down, you're not doing as great. And in periods of time, especially like with Fast, where you've seen this like pretty meteoric rise in viewership, and then suddenly now everyone's turning on the advertising for that, you get this a significant amount of supply. The demand, like the money follows the viewership, so it's always a little bit lagging, and we're at this period where the supply is outpacing the demand, and it's leaving a lot of folks in Fast feeling a little underwhelmed and even a little bit at risk with their Fast channels, because they're not making as much money as they expected to, given those dynamics. And so you're just more exposed in that way, so you have to right size your operation to make sure that you're profitable.
As Fast has grown, channel volume has become less of a differentiator. The focus is shifting towards stronger brands, recognizable IP, local relevance, and a better viewing experience. Here's how Samsung TV Plus Italy and ITV Studios are approaching that shift.
But I think, in my opinion, Fast will be and will continue to be like with some rebroadcast channels, but not only, right? I think it is not only just saying, oh, we're just going to be redoing like free HBB TV. That's not the point, right? The point is to have the best of the best. So I believe it's like, as I said, we just launched, the RAI Medico and Famiglia single IP. So there is more space, to launch, single IPs, to launch documentary channels, specific topics. We launched also, of course, BBC Earth, which is doing extremely well. We launched Mr. Bean, so international, IPs, right? And of course, we have also like the Sony movie channels like Action. We also have some Sony series channels that do well. So it's really will be a combination, I believe, of rebroadcasting, yes, but also like of quality content that is coming, from international and also from national. It's kind of like reinventing a little bit the quality and extracting the best of the best, because of course, if you're looking HbbTV in Italy, we have 800 channels. So would you say, why are you launching more free-to-air channels? Well, because on those 800 channels, there are also like a lot of channels that are basically selling mattresses and having like, very weird people that, are on TV, and they're trying to sell you like some, cards, so it's, do you want to watch that? I don't know, right? I want to watch like quality content. So it's kind of gonna be like, I really don't know where HbbTV is going, which is gonna be like, it's everything is in there. There's no kind of filter, right? But we're a filter. We have a product team in London, and they look really through if like the content is suitable, for the Samsung brand, right? For our values, and of course, if it's quality content, right? And if it makes sense, like marketing wise, to launch a new channel, right? We just don't launch any channels because that is not, the main strategy. It's not just launching any channels which are HbbTV in Italy on like Samsung TV Plus. We just want to have the best of the best, really. And because I think that also for a viewer, it's overwhelming, like the content that you have, the content that you want to have like a selection, a proposition, and you don't have to look through like massive amount of, search functions to just look at what is actually available, right? So it's actually also make it easier to the viewer what they're actually, watching, and propose to the viewer what is the best at that moment in time, right? Because we can propose, the content as well. So it's make it easier to the viewer.
And look, God, the fast industry has been really interesting, and you will have followed it yourself, but a very rapid growth with lots of big number wanging around what the size and scale is of that market. I think we're already starting to see a level of consolidation in fast, probably not surprisingly, and we're certainly seeing some dominant platforms with your Samsungs and others around those channels. And we're also seeing fluctuating CPMs on that channel business. So we didn't throw a load of mud at the wall to see what stuck. We really focused on what are the channels that we know people want to see. So the Hell's Kitchen channel, for example, would be, River Monsters channels and things like that. And then we've started to localize them more. So you can have Flussmonster in Germany or whatever it might be, so that we, can tailor to the market. So we've now got, although we've got about 160 fast feeds, that's probably focused on something like around about, 20 channels with then multiple feeds. So that's another key pillar for Zoo 55.
Fast content strategy is also becoming more deliberate. Successful channels often depend on local market knowledge, recognizable programming, clear genre positioning, and strong planning around events or audience habits. Here's what Samsung TV Plus Italy and ITV Studios had to say about content, localization, and planning.
Is it sports and live that's working, that you think is pushing that engagement, or kind of there are other genres as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, sports and live is always a good match. I was telling about Sport Italia and the Africa Cup of Nations, like the also Campionato Primavera, but also we just launched Super Tennis in Italy, and we're going to have like the Davis Cup live. Right. Super Tennis is also like a free-to-air broadcaster, right? But of course, it's live tennis is very important. Like at the moment, there's something very interesting happening in Italy with tennis, the tennis miracle, I would say. That it's kind of starting to kind of be followed more than or as much as football, which is like outspoken, outrageous for Italy, right? Like it's a proper cultural revolution, what like a single person like Sinner can do, right, to a nation, to a sport. So for us, of course, tennis is now becoming more important. So we just launched Super Tennis last week. So we're looking to see how the Davis Cup is going to perform. I believe, very well. It's those things that you would have never thought like a year ago, right? And that can work, right? Because it was kind of, tennis was at least not like number one priority radar, I believe, on many broadcasters, at least here in Italy, right? So that is one. And of course, what's generally working for us is, of course, soap operas, Turkish soaps, right? So I believe it's Turkish soap opera is an interesting one, because I think they're working extremely well in Italy, and of course also in Spain, right? Also in prime time on Brit Broadcaster. So we launched 2 soap channels. One is Soap Latino and like Soap Turco, like Turkish soap, from Fast Channels Network. And basically how we're doing it is like we're scheduling single IPs, right? In the channel. It's not like a mixture in the channel of many soaps, but it would be like one soap at the time, right? And that is proven to be successful. So not like a mixture of series, but one series in particular into like a container of a channel. So even though normally like serialized shows like don't work on free to air, I think, soap operas which have like an underlying closed-ended apps, I think that's doing well in Italy. In the Italian market love, soaps, and especially Turkish soaps. So I think we want to do definitely more of those. And of course, like Latin American soaps, and of course, like even, try even like English speaking soaps, see how that is, how that would work. So it's an interesting one, like the soap easy watch television, right? And that seems to work well. And of course, we have pop-up channels that we were launching. For example, for Christmas, we launched Cine Natale from Minerva. Minerva is like a big theatrical distributor in Italy. And we have 6 film channels with them. So we launched the Christmas channel, Cine Natale, and now it's going to be like Cine Amore, which is like love channel, right, for Valentine, right? So thematic pop-up channels, always very important. Always look, what is like in the market with regards to the marketing events. So we're trying to always tie them in, right? And you can actually see that it makes a lot of sense for the viewership to have specific themed topics in the channels, basically. And of course, I was mentioning, for example, also the channels on Totò and Alberto Sordi, right? So basically annual planning and marketing has to be tied into launching channels, really.
I wanted to ask you, are there any kind of upcoming projects or initiatives or anything that is being released from ITV or Z55 that you're excited to tell us about?
Always. I think one of them you've already uncovered, which is Space Live. I mean, I think that's pretty cool. And that's definitely not something that, did you say 2 years and a month ago?
3 years.
Oh, shame. 3 years, it definitely would not have been on a conversation we'd have been having then. We're still talking about what fast channels might be. So I think that's a pretty cool thing that, has really evolved over the last couple of years. We've launched a World of Love Island fast channel that's done incredibly well with Amazon in the US. And I think that is, again, I think as a content owner of our size and scale, you can take the success of Love Island in the US and in the UK, and we can start to do more with that brand, which we've done with the fast channel there.
Fast may be free for viewers, but it is not simple for operators. Monetization depends on scale and sales capability, programmatic infrastructure, and a clear audience proposition. Here's how Fuse Media is thinking about monetization, scale, and advertising growth.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's one of the questions I was going to ask is, as this market matures, is kind of what is Fuse doing to evolve its monetization strategy? Is there certain things that you can do, as you just talked about, like the supply and demand? Is there certain things that help mitigate some of these risks that have developed in the fast space?
Yeah, I mean, we've done as much as we can to de-risk things in various areas. So one is we have 7 owned and operated fast channels. That's in part by design. We're not a sort of SaaS-based model where we can manage as many channels as we can take on, and we're also being very specific and curated about who we work with and how it benefits our benefits our ad business. Does it work with our current ad business? Does it help us? And so that's been, going through the lens, which we did in pay TV, which we have done in pay TV, of being a Latino owned business and reaching a multicultural audience in pay TV. We've made sure to curate and build a business that mimics that or models that in fast. So all of our networks are multicultural networks that reach diverse, reach diverse audiences, sometimes specific audiences. And when we've done our partnerships, we've looked at it through that lens as well. So while we have channels like Shades of Black, Latino Vibes, Accesso VIP, reaching these diverse audiences, we also work with third parties. So Out TV is a partner that we brought in to manage their fast channel, which is an LGBTQ network. We worked with El Rey, which is Robert Rodriguez's brand, which uses an English language Latino audience. And so we brought them in. There's a few more partnerships that we're working on now to help build that out. So that's been a big part of how we've kind of managed to monetize fast more effectively, as we take the same selling points that we've done in pay TV and bring them into fast. And we've been able to move those dollars more effectively. The other piece, I think, is just leaning heavily into programmatic. Programmatic business has been the biggest growth area for us in advertising. Direct sales is still a priority, and it's still a good business for us, and it helps us to maintain premium CPMs in the marketplace. But programmatic is undeniable, and it's becoming more and more of the business, and we've had to get really good at that over the last couple of years, and that's where we're putting a lot of our focus. So the programmatic piece of the business is where we're seeing probably the most investment. And where we're prioritizing, the area of our growth for ad sales going forward is in that programmatic business. And that's a lot. And with programmatic, you need scale. So that's where we built Culture Collective, and we started working with other partners to be their sales agents on their behalf. So Lionsgate being one of those partners, Tastemade, Trusted Media Brands, Heartbeat. Those are all partners in which we sell their ads on behalf of them in the marketplace. That's also a multicultural audience extension, which helps build our overall market positioning with the supply that we need in order to capitalize as much as we can on the programmatic side of the business.
The next phase of fast growth will depend on execution, the right content, the right platform context, the right programming strategy, and the ability to build repeat viewing. It also means looking at new content models. Creator-led programming is becoming a bigger part of the conversation, while broadcaster VOD platforms and more advanced recommendation environments may create new routes for fast channels to reach audiences. Here's how Studio71, Fremantle, and Fuse see the market developing from here.
Can you talk me through the process of creating the fast channel and what sort of, work goes into the programming and scheduling to make some, traditional digital native content into, a more premium TV experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, there's so much I can talk about this.
Go on then.
Yeah. Fast is typically a second or third step for us when we're working with a creator on distribution. We always start with VOD because that's just a lot easier to do. There are a lot more costs associated with fast distribution. You typically have to work through a delivery partner on fast that comes with some pretty significant costs. And so we generally always start with the VOD offering, and really it starts with on our side, it starts with choosing the right creators for distribution. So we look for some pretty specific things. And I will say that, Studio71, we have just over 1,000 creators in our network. On the OTT side, we're distributing a little over 90 a creator driven series. And so we're pretty particular about who we actually work with. And we really look to work with creators who are already making TV level quality content that in terms of production value, really tight editing. It's not just someone in their bedroom with a camera. It's actually something much more involved. And we want to make sure that they have a good audience size, that they're getting a good amount of views over the past 90 days. And then also, and this is a really key thing for us, is what we call tonnage, just the amount of content and videos that they have. So, if a creator has only 100 videos, and if each of those videos are 10 to 12 minutes long, we can't really move forward with them on FAST. We might be able to do a VOD offering for them, but that's going to always be less interesting than a creator who has 1,000 videos or 2,000 videos.
Right.
And another thing I mentioned there that is very important and something that we look at quite a bit is the actual lengths of the videos. So most of the creators that we work with are already doing 22-minute formats, 44-minute formats. So the traditional commercial half hours and hour-long episodes. And so those are the creators we typically see performing the best. We do have some creators who are doing shorter form content, like 10 to 12 minutes, in which case we will actually combine 2 or sometimes even 3 videos together to make a full episode. But in doing that, a lot of other distributors will maybe just smash the videos together and then call it a day. We are actually much more intentional about, we will create like an intro to the episode. We create mid-roll interstitial transition scenes in between the videos and an outro. So it feels like a more cohesive episode. And this was actually something that traditional TV would do. You would see this a lot in kids animation on Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon. They'll actually have 2 or 3 shorts within an episode that they then connect together with transitions. And so, we're following a model there that has been tried and tested in the traditional TV landscape. There are some pretty big creators that we work with that are doing like 4 to 5 minute videos, where historically we've stayed away from those types of creators. We're starting to look at that a little bit more. But once you start getting to a point where you're combining 5 or 6 videos, it starts to not really feel like a cohesive episode. It feels a bit more random. So we're pretty particular about how we approach that. And then when it comes to actually, taking those episodes and putting it on FAST, once the VOD offering is created and we already have those commercial half-hour assets, it's a fairly straightforward process as far as like putting it up on FAST and getting it ingested. Really, the difficult thing there is just getting placement for a FAST channel on a platform.
Okay.
But once we do that, the ingestion of the creator assets is very simple, where we add a lot of value, and something that I'm incredibly proud of that Studio71 does that I haven't really seen any other FAST channel do in the same capacity, is we spend a lot of time thinking about the branding of the channel and really creating these brand worlds that viewers can engage with and dive into, that feel very dynamic, that feel very unique, and that communicate to audiences watching the channel that, hey, this channel is actually being done with a pretty good amount of intention. I will say I have a bit of an unpopular opinion, at least as it relates to the entertainment industry. I think a lot of my peers would very strongly disagree with me on this, but I think most entertainment executives are thinking about AI and how AI affects programming in really not productive ways. If you are using AI to make programming decisions and to identify content, and you're using just very generic bumpers or branding, then you are losing a major opportunity to actually create a world for viewers to plug into that makes them feel like when they're watching the channel, they're actually watching something that that is valuable, that has effort put into it. And so we spend a lot of time doing that type of work, creating unique marketing stunts that tie into the themes of the channel, that affect our programming choices. And that's something that I think has really led to really strong audience retention on our channels. Whereas with a lot of other fast channels, I mean, I very recently did a research project with our team where we were just looking at other fast channels in the ecosystem, and you're still seeing a lot of channels where their ad slate, if it's not filled, it's just a "we'll be right back" screen for 2 minutes, and you're just sitting there looking at this screen with like a timer counting down for 2 minutes, and like, what a wasted opportunity. Versus, if you create bumpers that are advertising other programming that's coming up, or something we've done with our gameplay channels. We work with a lot of gaming creators, is actually creating a fictional world with unique characters in it that audiences can kind of enjoy watching, like little skits and sketches happening with them in between the content actually being played. Now, nobody's going to be tuning in just to watch those bumpers, but the existence of them and the fact that there's so much intention behind them, it creates a feeling with viewers that there is someone who is paying attention, who cares, who's curating an experience for them. And I think that's gone a long way for us.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And we've always said, FAST is one piece of the pie of this entire ad-supported market. So it's absolutely an additional revenue stream for these folks. But I can see how, YouTube and their main sort of, operations is the focus. So it's great that you're, giving them the opportunity to increase distribution there. And how would you say, if you could, talk about it a little bit, like, how do you see the creator economy affecting the future of FAST? You've kind of talked about it a bit already, and it's a really hot topic right now.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but do you think this is going to stick and land? And, what do you see it, shaping out the whole content offerings of FAST?
Yeah, well, I think we're going to see creator-driven FAST channels really rise to the top of the FAST ecosystem. Given the nature of how creators are engaging with audiences, and they have a much more direct relationship with their viewers and their communities. I will mention that, we are looking to aggressively expand our FAST offerings in 2026. There are a number of additional FAST channels that I'm planning to bring to market for our creators that I'm very excited about. And in my view, I really see the creator economy becoming a major, if not the main, driving force behind FAST.
And in terms of the international opportunity around FAST, how would you?
We still run our Baywatch channels and Jamie Oliver channels. It's like the big franchises in the European market, for instance, or in Australia, or in Middle East. We are out there. There is some money to be made. There is some traffic to be generated. It is, to your earlier point, it's just not that level of expectation we had maybe 3-4 years ago, right? I think one interesting piece will be BVOD platforms. So when you have an ITV or an RTL Plus, and they put fast channels on their platforms, those fast channels can, I would imagine, and I know to an extent, can generate really big traffic numbers because they have strong traffic numbers on their platform. And if they put the right piece of single IP on their platform as a fast channel, that can drive really big traffic.
And speaking of AVOD and FAST and these platforms, can you talk a little bit about like your marketing strategy? And in terms of, when you do talk to these FAST platforms to make sure content discovery recommendation, like how is your content getting surfaced to users? Obviously, when you have a channel guide with hundreds of channels and you have to scroll through it, how are you ensuring that you're getting the viewership? Is there a way that you can ensure that you do that? And by talking to these platforms, is that something that you guys focus on as well?
Yes. we do it to the best that we can. I think anybody in FAST knows that the amount of data that you get is limited. It's often wrong. Our research team could go, you'd take them out to the bar and they could go on and on about how many times we've had reporting that then has suddenly changed in the dashboard. It's like, oh, okay, well, I guess what we've been going on for the last 3 months is incorrect. But it's a little bit of a tangent there. But with the data that we do get and what we do see, yes, we spend a lot of time thinking about what are viewing audiences showing up for, what are they staying for, and how do we improve each of those metrics. So it goes back a lot to traditional pay TV types of mechanics and figuring out how do you stunt things and how do you create editorial calendars with tent poles or marathons or whatever. So that you create these types of marketing opportunities, create repeatable marketing opportunities that bring a little bit more habitual viewing to the channel, things that can be marketed on the platform by the platforms that can feel like it's something that's unique. An event, again, going back to original programming does that very well. So that's something that we're definitely looking at. If not original, is it new? Is it exclusive? Are there other ways that we can push that? So that's definitely a piece of it. And I think that the habitual viewing becomes more and more important as more of these platforms start to look at their EPGs and they go, we've got several hundred, sometimes close to 1,000 channels on our EPG. We need to figure out a way to curate this better for our users. And they start to use machine learning or AI tools to show them just the channels that they might be interested in. So when you get into an algorithmic environment like that, you really need to understand your viewers' behaviors so that you can catch them at the right times and bring them in so that you become one of those recommended channels. So I think that's going to take probably more of a front seat going forward, is like understanding your audience. Again, like YouTube's been algorithmically driven forever. How do you know when to schedule things, when to program things, how to stunt things, how to get your audience in there? Because the more that they watch, the more you'll be recommended, the more you'll reach these, more curated sections of these EPGs as they become more sophisticated in curating it for the individual user.
What comes through across these conversations is that FAST is now a more mature and operationally demanding part of the content business. The opportunity remains significant, with companies finding new ways to use FAST for audience growth, IP monetization, content discovery, and advertising. As the market evolves, success will depend on strong content, careful curation, local market understanding, platform relationships, and a clear strategy for where FAST sits within the wider distribution mix. A big thank you to all our guests for sharing their perspectives and helping us unpack how the FAST ecosystem is developing in practice.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Inside Content, the TV industry podcast brought to you by 3Vision. With decades of TV industry experience and real-world success, we know the ins and outs of the market like nobody else. To learn more about our TV consultancy services, head to 3vision.tv.